Hi everyone, my name is Alia Ziati and I'm a second year student in International Relations at King's College London under the Department of War Studies. And today I will talk to you about my article, How Hiroshima mon amour redefines the art of storytelling after a traumatic experience. So I first saw the movie when I was in high school for a class talking about violence in armed conflicts and how to talk about the unspeakable and the war atrocities. And honestly, at first, I didn't understand it at all, I would say, because the dialogue was very strange. There were long silences, and I didn't understand the significance and symbolism of such a movie. But a few years later, here I am doing a journalism internship, and during which I took a course called For the Record, How to Document Stories from a War Zone. And I would say that that course changed how I saw the movie, especially about how official names and labels can sometimes contrast with the experiences of the local communities and what people really went through. So, the main theme of the internship was post conflict communities, and it's important to focus on how talking about trauma for those communities help people recover from the war atrocities and all the violence inflicted against them. And it's also worth noting sometimes the tension between official historical narratives and the personal experiences of those communities. And that's also a theme that the movie touched upon. So the movie Hiroshima mon amour opens with a powerful scene where a man tells a woman, "You saw nothing in Hiroshima, nothing," and he keeps repeating and repeating the sentences, but the woman insists that she has tried to understand what happened, that she visited museums, watched documentaries, but he keeps repeating, "No, you saw nothing in Hiroshima." And this movie shows how official records and images can never fully capture what people really been through. And sometimes trauma is just too deep and too personal and painful to be represented in simple facts or pictures. And instead, remembering trauma through those testimonies and human experiences offer a path to understanding. And this tells us something important, that trauma is almost impossible to represent directly, and instead we must approach it through feelings and personal stories. So Alain René, the director, was originally asked to make a movie about the atomic bomb, but he refused to show such graphic images of violence, and instead he made this movie about how we could remember the trauma, and he collaborated with a writer, Marguerite Duras, to try to convey this uncertainty and loss that people might feel when they describe the traumatic experiences they've been through. So this movie might appear simple at first. It talks about a love affair between a French woman and a Japanese man after Hiroshima, but it is not as simple as it seems, because it shows two traumatic experiences of those main characters. So the woman's trauma from being in France during the Nazi occupation, and the man's trauma from Hiroshima's bombing when he remembers his family. And this movie makes the parallel between such different events but similar traumas, and it's not about one country or one event, but it's more about the universality of this experience of a trauma. And the movie also shows how trauma mixes up with time and memory, because the woman can't really separate her present Japanese lover from her past German lover. So the memories get blurred and mixed, and this, I would say that this messy way of remembering isn't a flaw, but it's actually how trauma works, because it doesn't fit into timelines or clear narratives, but it's more about fragmented memories and confusing sentences, and how the dialogue can feel very empty, but it's more about the silences around trauma. And this movie uses this by telling the story in bits and pieces, using flashbacks, blurry images, making the audience feel also that confusion and that anxiety. And I would say that the movie redefines the storytelling after traumatic experiences, because it contradicts how in the 1950s storytelling about war was very clear, direct, political, and it tried to explain history with facts and strong political message. But the movie Hiroshima mon amour goes against that, and it rather shows how trauma can be captured into clear and neat stories, and instead it's told through broken memories and feelings. And it also shows how hard it is to really understand the pain. And this definitely challenges how we usually remember trauma, reminding us to not simplify or erase the messy parts, but also that forgetting some memories is also a part in the process of telling those traumas, and we have to accept it to recover. So the movie uses lots of flashbacks and blurry scenes to also and especially put the viewer in the place of the characters, and we feel their confusion and their anxiety about what happened. And there is really something special about the movie, as it shows the feelings and experiences that words alone cannot convey. And it shows how trauma resists clear stories, and it's more about the broken and confusing memories. And at the end, the characters call each other by their city names, really showing the local experiences of their traumas, but also showing how they listen to each other and they're opened up about their traumas, but also were open to the other person's trauma, and it shows their acceptance of their stories, including the painful parts. And the movie teaches us also that healing means both remembering and forgetting, and sometimes you need to let go of the painful details to rebuild yourself as a community. And finally, to finish, I would say that with so many pictures and videos everywhere now, it's easy to create one fixed narrative or story about any event. But Hiroshima mon amour reminds us that every person's experience is different. We should listen to everyone's testimony and listen to feelings and memories and not just facts. And it also shows how important it is to tell trauma stories carefully, with honesty and respect for those people who live them. Thank you for listening. I hope that you will see Hiroshima mon amour soon, and that you understood what it teaches us about new ways to tell about traumatic experiences. I'm Alia Ziati, and you can see my article on the Art for Refugees Media Hub. So don't hesitate, and thank you for listening.